Hi, I'm Greg with Occam's Razors. First off, I apologize. I have not done a video in a while. That's because school was kicked up and I've been really busy. Something did happen last week that was pretty important, and I felt a need to actually come on and do a video for it this weekend. And it was this. The Origin of Species is being republished. Ray Comfort is now, he was originally doing 50,000 copies. He's now doing 100,000 copies to give them out to the top universities in the United States. Along with this is this hoodie, and it is a 50-page introduction by Ray Comfort. Now, I know a lot of you guys have heard about this. I got a copy of it PDF. I am going to include a link in the sidebar to hit up and get your copy yourself so that you can download it, read it, print it out, whatever you want to do. I am not going to go point by point by point. Number one, there's some areas in this that I'm not an expert at, and I'm not going to talk, and give you stuff that might be wrong. What I am going to do is I am going to go through and I'm going to talk about the things that jumped out the most at me, the biggest problems, which is about 15 pages worth. That included something that just really jumped out at me. That way, at least you have some idea of what's in it, of what's included inside of this introduction. And when people ask you about it and ask you, why can't he do it? Well, then you can point to some of these things. Like I said, though, feel free to hit the link, print it out yourself, read it, and make your own judgments. Page 9, he starts talking about the DNA code, and he jumps right into, he does this several times throughout the entire introduction. It's the same BS that you've heard before. Let me hitch up here with what it's actually talking about. Consider for a moment whether you could ever believe this publication happened by accident. And what he's going to start doing here is the same thing that a lot of people have heard. He's going to point at something and say that had to have a maker. And he's using this as this example in this book of all the letters, of it being bound, of it being actually with commas and periods, etc., etc. And asks you to think about the fact that did it just come about by accident? Literally, that's what he says. Of course not. We made this. You wrote this. We designed the computers. There's a big difference that you're going to see in a couple of these examples. There's a difference whenever we're talking about evolution between things that are organic, things that reproduce, things that have DNA, and things that we make. Of course, there's a big freaking difference. He's going to get even better and offer examples in a couple pages here, which I'm going to show you more, but that's where he right off starts off. That's when I go, this is going to be a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, he goes into more about that. Here's where he starts comparison. He asks everyone to compare a worm, Mount Rushmore, a cellular telephone. Yes, that's a really old razor. It still works. And a 747. So what he's going to start to do here is look at pretty complex things, from the intricate workings of a cell phone to all the inside and the guts of a 747. Mount Rushmore, which of course, we carved into the earth, and a worm. He's going to start talking about which is more complicated, and the worm is actually because of all the genetic information. And basically make a comparison, well, if you think that 747 and a cell phone and Mount Rushmore was created by someone, then why not the worm? Yet again, difference between organic organism that has DNA and replicates itself and things that we make. I made a macaroni page back in kindergarten that said, I love you, Mom. That was designed too. Next up, when you see a biplane and a jet, which share common features of wings, body, tires, engine, controls, etc., do you assume that one must have evolved from the other naturally without a maker? That's illogical. Yeah, that is illogical. Organic, things that we make. I don't know how many times 1,000 people can push this into the heads of the people who actually buy this crap. There's a difference between things we make and the things that biology comes about. He goes on like this. It seems like I'm skipping over a lot, but I'm really not. It's just 14 pages of that stuff. Actually, during the very first portion of it, it's a few pages on the history of Charles Darwin, what kind of person he was, but I mean, whenever you look at Picasso, a lot of times he used to actually beat women and punch women to get the bruise up, to get the color that he would use for his paintings. I mean, what kind of a person you are doesn't have much to do with the work, and to try to push him down or to, push him up as a great person, it's a moot point. It's all about the work that you do, and that's what you're judged on as a scientist. You could be the greatest person in the world, you could be the worst person in the world. It's a moot point. Your science is what counts. So he goes through there, and I know Charles Darwin history, and I know a lot about him, but I'm not going to sit here and go through everything because, like I said, I've got a lot of stuff to go through, and I'm going to get this in one video. So that was that. Next up, everybody's favorite. I don't know if this will zoom in on it. Transitional fossils. This is another one that he's brought up many, many, many times before, and other people have brought up that there are no transitional fossils. Everybody remembers the Crocoduck with Kirk Cameron and Ray Comfort on live television. You just don't understand the idea of what a transitional fossil is. Anything that has ever existed a long time ago, all of that up until what exists now, anything in between, that's a transitional fossil. One day, our transitional fossils, the fossils that we found, but they've been transitional species. We too, if evolution proves correct, we will one day also be transitional species. Whenever, a million years go by and something else has evolved from us, and they can look back at us, if we, of course, survive that long, look back at us and say, yeah, that was a transitional species, and they will laugh at the people who didn't believe in this. I know what I'm going to do. AronRa made a great video on this, specifically about transitional fossils. I will put that into it also. So after you punch up and you're looking at this introduction from the PDF, hit this link so that you can check out AronRa's thing. I might put one or two down there. He does another one where he just lists off just tons of transitional fossils. Pit Down Man. Pit Down was a deliberate fraud, as a paleontologist filed down teeth from an orangutan jaw and included it with pieces from a human skull. Yeah. And everyone who brings up Pit Down Man, I just eat it up, and I love it because it shows where we're humble, where science is humble enough to admit that it's dead wrong and to start back at square one before a hoax was created, rather than creationists. Creationists will fight tooth and nail. They will not admit that they're wrong on anything. All they'll do is they will change their story, but say that, it's no difference, but they'll keep up with the same ideas. They won't admit that they're wrong. They won't admit that anything in the Bible is wrong. Pit Down Man is a great example of scientists finding something, thinking that it's legitimate, working off of it, building science. Then it became known that it was actually a hoax. They said, well, crap, all the science is based off of what we learned from that is now void. We have to go back. So they went back. It was a fraud, and I'm tired of paying for it. Yeah, there are. Pit Down Man was a hoax. Of course, Kent Hovind, Ken Ham, and you, Ray Comfort, are also completely full of crap, and I would call you a hoax too, to intelligence. Next up, he talks about the eye. The eye is an example of what is referred to as irreducible complexity. No, it is not. It is only referred to that as that by you because you don't lack the imagination to figure out a way around it. Okay, science will explain everything, every question that we have. There's huge questions of irreducible complexity. It just means we haven't figured it out yet. 150 years ago, before the publication of Origin of Species, if you ask anyone how the eye formed, they would say God, because they had no other answer. They didn't understand. Now look where we are. Give us another 150 years and see what examples of irreducible complexity you're going to be able to find that we can't just outright and explain. In fact, that elementary kids won't be able to explain because they're learning it in elementary school because it's so simple. It's all this stuff that takes time to learn. 1,000 years ago, there's a lot of things we didn't know. Now look at today and what we know. Just think about what we're going to know 1,000 years from now.